How's it going, guys? It is time for my first mock draft of the year. Exciting times. And so here we go. I will have this will be a first round mock draft 1 through 30. And I'm going to do this a little bit differently. I will probably have about 4, 5, 6 mock drafts, somewhere around there. I'm thinking maybe 4 mock drafts and then my one final mock draft where I do the editing and nice stuff like that. And this one's going to be a little bit different because I'm actually going to go through all picks 1 through 30, not the final 2 because we don't know how that plays out yet with the Super Bowl still coming up. But I figured this would be a good time just to go through each and every team. I'm going to try and do it quick because I don't want to make some super long video nobody wants to watch. But that way I just kind of tell you my thought process for every team right off the bat. And so, for the people that kind of like a longer video with some explanations, they'll like these ones. I'll make some other ones where I'll only talk about some of the picks, or maybe not none of the picks at all. So we kind of get some different lengths in videos there. So if you like a shorter video, those will be coming. But like I said, gonna try and go through each and every pick. Also, of course, the picks will be down in the description or the comment section. They'll be down somewhere below, so you can see those. Number 1, I have the Cleveland Browns taking Myles Garrett. Now, there's a lot of teams in the top 5, top 10 that could use a quarterback, but I don't really see the quarterbacks being worthy of those picks. So I kind of just, did away with them. I have them coming later, but not high in this year's draft. So with the quarterbacks out of the picture, Myles Garrett seems to be a really smart pick. Either him or Johnathen Allen. Either one would make a lot of sense. I could make an argument for both. Rumors are that the Browns like Myles Garrett a little bit more, so I went there. Second overall pick, I have the San Francisco 49ers taking Malik Hooker. Maybe a little bit of surprise, but again, no quarterback I feel worthy of being picked here. And then you could take Johnathen Allen, but honestly, how many years are you going to take a defensive end with a high first-round pick? I think it's time for them to go in a different direction. I think if they added a strong safety like Malik Hooker, who actually could play either safety, I think it would do a lot for that defense, kind of balancing it out and maybe getting it back to, some 2011, 2012, 49ers defense. Wouldn't that be something? The Bears with the third overall pick taking Johnathen Allen. This is just simply best player on the board. I think the Bears defense would actually look kind of nice if they were able to get a guy like Johnathen Allen. So I think it's a smart pickup for them. Not sure what they do with Jay Cutler, but I don't know if I see their future quarterback right here at 3. Jacksonville Jaguars, again, another team maybe wants a quarterback, but I kind of think with Doug Marrone just getting promoted and they keeping the team pretty much the same with the addition of Tom Coughlin, it's probably a sign that Blake Bortles is going to get another year. Maybe they bring in some competition, but I don't think anything serious. So I give him Jabril Peppers. Peppers, very interesting player, can do a lot for a team. I don't know if he necessarily goes this high at number 4, but I think he's very versatile and can do a lot for that Jacksonville Jaguars defense, as my dog's going to join us for the video here. Number 5, we have Quincy Wilson, the cornerback out of Florida. As a Gator fan, watched a lot of this guy. Very solid. I have him as my number 1 cornerback. Tennessee, I think they could go wide receiver, but they could very well double down on defense as well. They have a quarterback, they have a running game, time to build around that, and I think Quincy Wilson in that secondary would do a lot for the Tennessee Titans. Number 6, the New York Jets. Clearly need to go offense here. Years and years of going defense, and your defense isn't great, but, you need to look on the offense side of the ball. Maybe a quarterback here because, hey, the top 5's out of the way. The top 5 best players theoretically are gone, so maybe you could reach. But, Dalvin Cook's there. I think this just makes too much sense. You can get rid of Matt Forte, give you a running back that can catch the ball in the backfield, a pretty decent blocker, really good runner. Just does a lot and could be kind of a building stone for that offense if you're the New York Jets. Number 7, the Los Angeles Chargers, as this is the second year in a row a team is moving to LA. I haven't taken Jamal Adams. I think that Chargers defense could still use some work. I really like Jamal. Really like the safeties in this draft. I have 3 safeties in the top 10 there. So I think this is a pick that makes a lot of sense. Number 8, the Carolina Panthers. Going with Leonard Fournette. A lot of talk will be about the Panthers will be, should they go secondary, kind of replace Josh Norman. But also when that Panthers team was really good just in 2015, going 15-1, the big thing was that running attack. They had a killer running game, and I think if you had Leonard Fournette running the ball, maybe Jonathan Stewart comes back, Cam Newton can run the ball, that would be a pretty good offense for the Panthers and maybe get them back in that NFC South come next year. So I think a good pick there. Cincinnati Bengals, I'm going with Derek Barnett. Really like Barnett. I think he has the potential to go top 10. As much talk as there has been about Myles, Garrett, and Johnathen Allen, and deservingly so, I think Derek Barnett is very good out of Tennessee in his own right. And so I don't know if this is the biggest need for the Bengals necessarily. They're kind of an interesting team when it comes to trying to mock exactly where they'll go, but I think Derek Barnett could be a great player for them. The Buffalo Bills at number 10, I'm going with Corey Davis. The Bills have a few needs, but one of those is they need another wide receiver. Depending on who their quarterback is, it doesn't matter. All you have is Sammy Watkins, and he's kind of had an injury-prone career. Very good when he's healthy, but I think you need a second option to the side. Not sure who the number one wide receiver is right now, but I think Corey Davis is a little different. He's kind of a bigger body, maybe a red zone threat, while Mike Williams is kind of similar to Watkins. So that's why I give the nod here to Corey Davis, just for being a little different. New Orleans Saints are here at 11, and for the 2700th year in a row, it seems like they need defense. So Rueben Foster, you can't pass on a player like him. I think he's a great linebacker out of Alabama, and you just gotta have to keep addressing that need till it gets fixed if you're New Orleans. Number 12 is where I have my first quarterback, and then number 13. So back to back here, wait a little bit, but then we have Mitch Trubisky going 12 to the Browns, and Deshaun Watson going 13 to the Cardinals. As far as Mitch Trubisky, right now he sees... he kind of shows, from what I see, that he might have the most top 10 potential, although I wouldn't even count out a Deshaun Kaiser or Pat Mahomes necessarily. Again, I think that number one quarterback spot is still pretty open for debate, but I'll give the nod to him. He's out of Ohio. He actually wants to play for the Browns, so that says something right there. If you're the Browns, actually have someone that wants to be a part of your organization, I think you might have to take him. Deshaun Watson, I really like that pick for the Cardinals because they have some other needs, but at the end of the day, you got to think about life past Carson Palmer. Deshaun Watson could sit for a year, fix a lot of his problems that he does have, and then he definitely has that clutch factor as we saw in the national championship game. So, give him a chance to start in a few years. He might actually kind of bring back the Cardinals to being one of the best teams in the NFC if they really use him right. And I think Bruce Arians would be a great coach for him to have. The Philadelphia Eagles at 14. You really just need to find some weapons for Carson Wentz, but wide receiver or offensive line here. No offensive linemen have gone off the board yet, so I'm going with Cam Robinson. I actually have Ryan Ramczyk as my number one offensive lineman at the moment, but he's having hip surgery, so give the nod to Cam Robinson here. Baltimore Ravens, Indianapolis Colts rather, giving him Adoree Jackson. I don't know if this is the biggest need for the Colts, but they could use another cornerback, and I just think Adoree Jackson is a very special player. I think he could test well in the combine and end up in the top 10, so give him there. The Ravens need a wide receiver, so we're going with Mike Williams, my second wide receiver off the board. The Washington Redskins, I'm going with Zach Cunningham at 17. Just a fun player to watch. As I've started to kind of watch some highlights and some old game films, Zach Cunningham is a very fun player to watch, talented linebacker. Probably would love him for my Dolphins or pretty much any team that needs a linebacker. He would be a very, very good pickup. Number 18, the Tennessee Titans with their second pick. I'm going Soloman Thomas, defensive end. Solid player, and probably a good decision for the Tennessee Titans. They kind of doubled down on defense and addressed that side of the ball. They kind of addressed the offense last year's draft with Derrick Henry and addressing the offensive line. So going the opposite direction. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think you need some more protection for Jameis Winston. So here I go with Ryan Ramczyk at this position, my second offensive lineman off the board at 19. The Denver Broncos now at 20. A lot of people are going to talk offense when they talk about the Denver Broncos, and they do need some offense, but I think ultimately most of their offensive needs will probably be addressed in free agency. I don't know if they're going to add another quarterback. I wouldn't be surprised if they just go with Paxton Lynch. You did spend a first-round pick on him, but they might go after someone like a Kirk Cousins or something of that nature in free agency. Running back and offensive line, again, I think they'll probably address for the most part in free agency, but I think a big thing for the Broncos is to replenish that defense. It took not a big step back, but a little bit of a step back this year because you lost some guys like Malik Jackson and whatnot to free agency. So I think kind of replenishing it with some young defensive talent in the first round would be really wise. Number 21 is now we get into the playoff teams. I have the Detroit Lions with John Ross. Not too many needs for the Lions, and I think a guy like John Ross would be an excellent value pick here. He could go easily in the top 20, but I think they could use another weapon for Matthew Stafford to throw the ball to. Number 22 being my Miami Dolphins. I have them taking DeMarcus Walker, the defensive end out of FSU. Plenty of needs for the Dolphins. They could look offensive line, maybe a tight end if it makes sense, and definitely a linebacker. But I have my top 2 linebackers already off the board at this point, and I think DeMarcus Walker would be a great pick because another need for the Dolphins is a defensive end. Cam Wake is still playing phenomenal, but he's not getting any younger. Andre Branch is a free agent, so they could definitely use a big-time pass-rushing defensive end like DeMarcus Walker. This guy gets in the backfield a lot. I think this would be a good pickup. The New York Football Giants at 23, I have them going with Deshaun Kaiser, my third quarterback off the board. But like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if he jumped a little higher and ultimately even became that number 1 quarterback. But right now, I think he's just his momentum is a little bit behind Trubisky and Watson. But for the Giants, I think this is an excellent pickup. He could sit a couple of years while Eli Manning kind of finishes out his career. But I think Eli showed this year he took a step back, and perhaps it's time for the Giants to think about their quarterback of the future. So giving them that pick. Next, I have 2 kind of fun picks, maybe not necessarily need-based, but we're going with the Oakland Raiders and O.J. Howard. Again, they could probably use a cornerback more, and I have cornerbacks worthy of that pick, but just think about Derek Carr throwing the ball to O.J. Howard. I mean, it just makes that pick so much fun. The Houston Texans, I'm going with Marlon Humphreys, cornerback out of Alabama. Cornerback, maybe not the biggest need, but unless you're going to a quarterback here, the Texans probably don't have a lot of need. So why not continue to make sure that that defense is really, really strong? That really is what carried you into the playoffs last year. So stick with what you're good at. Number 26, the Seattle Seahawks. I have them taking Garrett Bortles, the offensive tackle out of Utah. They'll probably have to do more than this because they did take an offensive lineman late in the last year's first round. But the Seahawks, I think, have got to learn their lesson that their strategy of not addressing the O-line and hoping it improves over the year is one of the things that's really holding them back. They could go defense here as well, but as long as there's an offensive lineman worthy of that 26th overall spot, I think it would make a lot of sense. I wouldn't even blame the Seahawks for trading up, honestly, to the middle first round to get a Cam Robinson or a Ryan, because again, they really need to start thinking about that offensive line, and they would have, the ammunition or the trade, material to get a trade like that done. So, number 27, Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going with Christian McCaffrey. Now, first of all, they may be getting rid of Jamal Charles. I think that's a very strong possibility. So maybe then they could look at a backup running back being a need. But no, this isn't a need, but when you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, unless you're going to try and get a different quarterback other than Alex Smith, they don't really have a lot of needs. Dontari Poe, defensive tackle, is a free agent, so if he left, maybe that's a need. But man, I think Christian McCaffrey would fit into the Kansas City Chiefs offense perfectly. I mean, I think he would just continue. You add him with Tyreek Hill and Jeremy Maclin and Spencer Ware and guys like that. I think he would be phenomenal. Number 28, the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going with Sidney Jones, the cornerback out of Washington. Really solid cornerback. The Cowboys need to address the defensive side of the ball, either the defensive line or, in this case, the secondary. Pittsburgh Steelers also need to address the secondary. I'm going with Tez Tabor, cornerback out of Florida. I think that would do a lot for them. And lastly, the Green Bay Packers also could use secondary, but 2 cornerbacks just went off the board. So we're going with Tarkus McKinley, the edge rusher out of UCLA. I think he would be a good pickup for them. It would allow Clay Matthews, to just kind of find one spot, either linebacker or maybe you put McKinley at defensive end or vice versa. But instead of, Matthews kind of switching his defensive position throughout the game, you could kind of add another pass rusher in there. And I think it would help out a guy like Clay Matthews a lot and that Packers defense, which, as we saw, ultimately held them back in the NFC Championship game against the Atlanta Falcons. So those are my 30 picks for for the mock draft 1.0. Like I said, I will have more mock drafts coming out, after the combine and after free agency, and as we learn more, I will have more mock drafts. It depends on how much time I have. But thank you for watching. Like I said, this was going to be probably the longest video of all my mock drafts, other than maybe the last one. Just as I'm going through every pick here and just kind of letting you know my thought process for all of these teams. And I will probably have one more video coming out later this week with a preview of Super Bowl 51. Thanks for watching.